Frank began his career as an intern at KTVU in 1981. He went on to become the number one news anchor in the Bay Area for 30 years, and he won 5 Emmys for television news and journalism. In June of 21, he took a leave of absence to address his mental health issues and addiction problems. He's going to share his recovery as well as some of his adventures reporting the news. Please welcome Frank Somerville.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. It was great seeing you yesterday, along with one other person. I'm blanking on her name right now, but my name is Frank, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm a major cokehead, not minor, major. And I can finally say that now. I no longer have to live a lie. It was, I lived a lie for many, many years. And I felt shame for many, many years. And I could never enjoy my success for many, many years because I knew who I was down inside. And what I want to do today is just talk about what addiction is like, what it turns you into, and why it's so difficult to stop. I can just finally be honest, and it feels great. And what I want you guys hopefully to get out of this is just what happens to an addict, the kind of things that it makes you do. When I look back at who I was, I don't even recognize the person. I truly don't. And today I'm going to tell you some really embarrassing things, because that's what happens. So I wanted to start with one example that I thought I would never share with anyone. And it was back when I was a reporter in Rhode Island. And we were doing a story on a gentleman who didn't have a lot of money. And his son was fighting in Desert Storm. His son was willing to give his life to go overseas and fight in Desert Storm. Dad was very concerned, obviously. And so I was interviewing him. And on the counter, I saw that he had $60. Well, to me, that represented a gram of coke. And so I stole the money. I stole his money. I mean, what kind of person would do that? I did, because I was an addict and because all I could think about was coke. That's the kind of person you turn into. When I was at Channel 2, I was the top anchor in the Bay Area, the number one guy in the Bay Area, making $600,000 a year, lived in a $2.5 million house, beautiful family. Now it's all gone. I have an ex-wife who is still furious over how I treated her, and rightly so. My older daughter won't speak to me. And all my life, I dreamed about taking her to college, helping her set up her room, and then being the proud dad watching her graduate. She got accepted to Northeastern University, Boston, top university in the country, one of them. She would not allow me to take her there. Never even saw the campus. Wouldn't allow me to watch her graduate because of how I treated her. I deserved it all. That's paying the price of what I did. I grew up with a lot of trauma. My dad made me feel small, insecure. Always told me I was too sensitive. At age 20, I found coke and alcohol purely by accident. Someone just said, "You want to do some coke?" I said, "What is that?" I guess, all right. And that was my escape. Both alcohol and coke were my escape. All of a sudden now I didn't have to feel anymore. I didn't have to feel my sadness. I could numb myself. And it also gave me the confidence to, quote unquote, be me. And that's where the addiction starts. You start feeling like you need it in order to be me. You get addicted to numbing yourself because you know if you don't, you'll have to feel. and you'll do anything, or I will do anything. I would do anything back then to keep from feeling, because feeling was too difficult for me. And I couldn't handle that because I was too sad. And it takes over your life. And I just want to tell you one short story about what happens to you when you're doing coke. You become paranoid. And I remember, I haven't done coke in 30 years, but when I was in Rhode Island, I mean, you know, you're up all night and you're sweating and your eyes are bugged out. And I remember, it's so stupid to say this, but I remember just staring out of the keyhole in my door, just staring and I was just waiting for someone to come, like they were going to come and get me or something like that. This would go on for hours. That's how crazy it is. I look back at that now and go, what the hell was I doing? That's how crazy you get. I remember also making my kids wait on Christmas morning for me to get off of mornings on 2. And holidays were always hard for me. But I was so selfish that I needed to go get a drink to calm myself down before I'd come home. So I made my kids wait. Who does that? Made my kids wait because I was too selfish. I needed to calm myself down. Couldn't even enjoy Christmas with my kids. I was never in the moment. Never in the moment. And I also had horrible mood swings, to the point where my daughter wouldn't come out of her room in the morning until she knew whether it was going to be a good day or a bad day. It was just like a roller coaster. Everything continued to get worse and worse, and I poured myself into work. And I think that's where my mental health issues, that is where my mental health issues started. On my own time, I went to funerals for 8 young Black men and women who were killed on the streets of Oakland because I wanted to tell their story on my Facebook page, because I didn't think Channel 2 would do a good job of, I didn't think Channel 2 would do a good job of telling their stories. And all of the funerals were open casket, including one for a little girl, a 24-month-old baby who was shot and killed along with her dad. And I mean, you see that she looked like a little doll. And I have 600,000 people who follow me on Facebook, so I knew that I could tell their story better than Channel 2 could. And then I also went to 2 funerals for officers who were killed in the line of duty. And if you've never seen a flag draped coffin, oh boy, is that powerful. And I think I didn't realize the toll that took on me. I remember one time asking someone at one of the funerals, do you mind if I ask how many funerals you've been to? He goes just like this. Let me think. He said, in the last year, I think I've been to 13. I mean, I can't even remember the last funeral I went to. That's just so normal for them. Another girl told me she'd been to so many that she only goes to funerals now of people she really knew. It's just stunning. But I think I felt like my mind was cracking. That's how I used to describe it to my wife. And then I also said, I feel like I'm in a pall of sadness. And I've never used that word in my life, but that was the word that came to my mind in terms of how to describe how I felt. But for main anchors, just like for police and firefighters and CEOs, asking for help is a sign of weakness. At least that's what I thought. And so I didn't ask for help. Plus, the HR person at our station didn't care. She was more interested in protecting the company than she was with helping employees. And so I took the easier way out. It was a cop-out. I just drank to deal with it. And finally, on June 6th of 2023, last year, 8 months ago, I surrendered. I was sick of the chaos. I was sick of being angry. I was sick of being sick and looking sick. Started going to AA meetings 5 days a week. The steps help teach you to understand why you do things so you can change your behavior. You can go there and say, and talk to someone and say, God, I used to hide vodka in my washing machine. And the guy will go, oh man, that's a good one. I never thought about that. And we can both laugh because he gets it and I get it. He understands. I understand. I also replaced drinking with going to the gym. 8 months ago, I could barely walk 3 blocks. The other day, I mean, I go to the gym 5 times a week. The other day, I thought, wonder how fast I can run a mile. And so I got on the treadmill and I ran a mile in 9.5 minutes. For someone who's 66, that's pretty freaking fast. That's running at 7 miles an hour, which is, whew, that is fast. I also, and I do this for a reason. The only way I can show you how I've changed is we have a Batman tattoo. You better damn well have a badass shoulder. And so I've lost 25 pounds and I've completely transformed my body. And I can wear a shirt like this. And I have a 19-year-old daughter who goes, whoa, Dad, you look pretty kick-ass in that shirt. I'm like, yeah. I was afraid she'd go, Dad, you're 66. I don't really think you should be wearing that shirt. But thankfully, she didn't. And let me just end with this part of my talk by saying that Matthew Perry talked about his shame from his addiction. And he ended his book that he wrote before he died by saying that after a lifetime of addiction, he now looks over the water and thinks to himself, maybe I'm not such a bad guy after all. And I think the same thing too. I felt so much shame that I could never enjoy my success, which just breaks my heart, but I get it. At the same time, I think I did a lot of bad things, but I still don't believe I'm a bad guy. Addiction made me do bad things, but I'm not a bad guy. And I'm trying to forgive myself. And by being clean, by keeping, as we say in AA, my side of the street clean. And that's what I'm doing. So let me just briefly talk here about 2 of the stories that I've done that I think you'll find interesting. One of them is I watched an execution at San Quentin. And the other one that I'll end with is flying with the Blue Angels. And I only had 2 goals when I flew with the Blue Angels: not to faint, not to throw up. I only achieved one of those goals. But I'll start with the execution. So they always have media witnesses, and I volunteered to be one of the witnesses. And the reason I did that was because it's important as an anchor to experience as many things personally as you can. The more things you've experienced, the better an anchor it makes you, because now I can do an interview about the death penalty differently from someone who hasn't witnessed an execution. So I'll never forget driving across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. And at one point you come over a crest and there's San Quentin prison all lit up. I looked at it and I thought, my God, a guy's going to die there tonight and I'm going to watch him die. It's just such a bizarre thought to have. So they start the execution at midnight because they're only allowed to kill him on the specified day. Otherwise, it goes back to the judge and it will take another year to come up with a new execution date. So it gives them 24 hours to kill him and deal with all of the potential last minute appeals. So we get there, and at 11:30, they take us into a room opposite the execution chamber. And they tell us to empty our pockets, and they give us a piece of paper and a pencil. And then they lead us into the room where the execution will take place. And in this case, it was the old gas chamber at San Quentin that had been reconfigured with a gurney and with big belts. And around the gas chamber, the execution chamber, are risers that we stand on, along with other government officials, and the witnesses all have folding chairs in front, right in front row seats. And It's very quiet. You're not allowed to talk. And it's dark where we are on the risers, but it's all lit up inside the former gas chamber. And all of a sudden you hear, and the metal door, that's like a door on a ship, opens up. And in comes this little dude, shackled, surrounded by these big guards. And he walks in and they help him hop up on the gurney. And they take off his handcuffs and leg cuffs, and they strap him down with, again, these big belts. He's not going anywhere. And so what I was looking for was anything. Were his eyes bugged out? Was he sweating? Did he look nervous? And didn't show any signs at all. It looked like he just accepted his fate, and he was going to, quote unquote, die like a man, whatever that means. He was not going to show any fear. And he'd killed 2 people in a robbery. There's no question about his guilt. He'd been on death row for 20 years, which is the average stay, by the way, on death row. So what they do is they, before Gavin Newsom put death penalty, death row inmates on hold, death executions on hold, they used a 3-drug cocktail, if you will. The first drug puts you to sleep. The second drug paralyzes your body, and the third drug stops your heart. So the EMTs come in, and it was just such an odd juxtaposition because EMTs are supposed to save your life. And I'm not making any judgment on them whatsoever. But here you're watching EMTs put these needles in his arm, they're going to kill him. Just such a weird sight. After they do that, the warden comes in. He says his last words to the warden. She walked out. They tighten the door. And then there's a door right next to the risers, and you hear, and there's a little keyhole, and it opens up, and the correctional officer pulls out a note and says the execution of so-and-so will start now. And I mean, it's just dead quiet. And all I noticed was at one point his foot went like that, and then another point his head went like that. And then the last thing, and this took probably 10 minutes, but the last thing you noticed was his heart kind of came out and stopped. And we're all kind of going, is that it? And then here, correctional officer opens up the keyhole, pulls us out, and says the doctor has pronounced so-and-so dead at 12:13. And at that point, we're the first ones to leave, the media are. And so we walk out. And I remember I had 4 thoughts. The first thought was how precious life is because you're watching someone die right in front of you. The second thought was I wanted to go home and hug my wife and kids. The third thought was I hope that I'm never one of those victims' relatives who sits first row and watches the killer get killed, because it's still not going to bring back the person they killed, but maybe it will give you some closure, whatever that means. But I just hope I'm never involved in that situation. And then finally, and this was the one that surprised me the most because I'm a Berkeley liberal, I didn't care. If the warden had said, the person who was going to pull the levers just got sick, anybody want to volunteer? And I say this with no hyperbole. I would have said, hell yes, I'll do it. That's how I just didn't care. I remember actually when he first walked in, I said to myself, good riddance, you MF. F you. I mean, that's exactly what I said. I just didn't care. That really surprised me. All right, now, to end this on an up note, I'm going to talk real quick about the Blue Angels. So the Blue Angels have a 2-seater FA-18, which is a beautiful plane, that they take up media in whenever they go and perform. So I volunteered, and I got picked. And we get out there, and they give us a flight suit. And I mean, here's this incredibly beautiful plane. And you climb up a little ladder to get in. And when you get in, they strap you down with this 8-point seatbelt. They really pull it tight. And then the canopy comes down. And the first thing I remember was the air conditioning. I thought, oh my God, this air conditioning is awesome. Because it was this crisp, cold air. And I always run hot anyway. I just thought, why can't I get this kind of air conditioning in my house? Good Lord. And then I noticed that there were all these red buttons. There was one in front of me, one down below, and one on each side. I'm like, I wonder what these are. And the pilot, Ken Switzer, goes, Frank, whatever you do not hit one of those red buttons. And I said, well, what are they? And he goes, that's the ejector seat. And I said, Ken, I will not be hitting one of those buttons. And he said, if we have to eject, I will say eject, eject, eject. And on the third eject, you hit. And basically, on the ejector seat, there's a bomb underneath your seat that shoots you out. And it shoots you out with such force that it compresses your spine. And you can be seriously injured. I mean, at least you're alive, but you can be seriously injured. So then he starts up the engine. And I love engines. I love power. I love speed. And it's just this beautiful. And we pull out onto the runway. And he goes, you ready? And I'm like, yes, I'm ready. Let's go. And so we go and we come up about 50 feet off the runway. And he goes, 100 miles an hour, Frank, 200 miles an hour, Frank, 300 miles an hour, Frank, stand by, pull. And on pull, he had told me there's 2 metal bars on each side. He said, you pull on those bars, you go. And so the plane goes like this, 300 miles an hour, stand by, pull. We go straight up. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so badass. I love this. And we go straight up and then we level off. And then we're doing. And I started noticing that I was getting this little pit in my stomach. And I kept saying, God, please don't let me throw up. Please don't let me throw up. And I kept taking deep breaths. Mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter. And then Ken said, Frank, I'm going to show you what it's like to fly upside down for an extended period of time. And he takes the plane and goes, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. And I said, Ken, I think you better level the plane off. So he did. And at that point, I had to throw up. And it never occurred to me that planes like that would have side view mirrors. So they have bags on either side, and I pull out one of the bags. And I'm throwing up while I'm watching him in the mirror watch me throw up, which was kind of embarrassing. And then when I did finish throwing up, I'm sitting there in this beautiful plane with this bag of throw up in my hand going, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? And so I put it on the ledge over here. And sure enough, here it is over here. And he banks this way. I'm like, whoa. And so I grabbed it. I'm like, God, what the hell? And then I remembered my flight suit has all these pockets. So I put it in my pocket right next to my calf. And we had to end the flight early. Darn it. And when we got off, you know how you look after you throw up? You know, you're white as a ghost, you're sweating like crazy. Your hair's all stringy. You can't walk straight. Well, that was me. And then he gets off the plane. And he is like arrows, ramrod straight. Not a hair out of place. Puts on his ascot. The guy just looked too freaking cool for school. And I always wonder, I just could picture him at a party, you know, standing there, sitting back like this. And someone walks up to him and goes, hey, dude, what do you do for a living? He looks around. Yeah, I'm a fighter pilot. I just think, oh my God, how cool would that be? That's how cool he was. And that's how cool it was flying in those planes. And just one last note, when those Blue Angels fly together, when they're flying like this with one upside down over the other, they're 2 feet apart, 2 feet. And when they're flying in formation like this, their wings are 2 feet apart. I mean, those guys are those pilots are so amazing. So anyway, that's my share. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. And if